Never let a narcissist back in. They'll shatter you the moment you open that door. When a narcissist leaves your life, it can feel like a storm has finally passed. Chaotic, destructive, yet eerily silent in its aftermath. And then, one day, a message appears. A text, a call, a casual, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." For many survivors, this moment marks the beginning of a dangerous temptation to let them back in. But psychologists warn that this is where the true test of healing begins, because no one plays the game of emotional resurrection better than a narcissist. According to Dr. Ramani Durvasula, a leading expert on narcissistic abuse, narcissists thrive on cycles of discard and return. Their hoovering, as it's often called in psychology, isn't about reconciliation, it's about control. They come back not because they love you, but because they can't stand losing the power they once had over you. Every kind word, every nostalgic memory, is bait designed to reopen the wound they created. To them, your forgiveness is proof that their manipulation still works. Imagine a parent who spent decades rescuing an adult narcissistic child, paying their bills, covering their debts, soothing every emotional outburst. Each time, the parent tells themselves, they'll change, they just need more love. But psychologists describe this as a tragic loop of pathological hope. It's not love, it's survival. Narcissistic individuals learn early that empathy is a currency to be exploited. They sense guilt and compassion like a predator senses blood in water. Each plea for help isn't a bridge to healing. It's a hook, carefully baited and cast toward the one person still willing to save them. Dr. Carol McBride, author of Will I Ever Be Good Enough, explains that narcissists rarely evolve with age. They calcify. Their entitlement deepens. Their empathy erodes. The longer you feed the dynamic, the more they believe they deserve it. This is not growth, it's corrosion disguised as dependency. And whether that narcissist is your child, your lover, or your sibling, the psychological truth remains the same. You cannot fix them. Trying will only fracture you further. Romantic relationships follow the same toxic script, though often with more devastating emotional fallout. The narcissist begins as a dream, a soulmate who mirrors your every thought. But psychologists call this love bombing, a stage of idealization that floods your brain with oxytocin and dopamine, making you chemically attached to your abuser. When the mask slips and the devaluation begins, you cling harder, believing the illusion can return. By the time the discard comes, you're emotionally addicted to a person who doesn't truly exist. After the breakup, something cruel happens. When you finally start to heal, when your world begins to feel stable again, they reappear. They sense your peace as a threat, a sign you're slipping from their psychological grasp. So, they return with familiar lines. I've changed. I found faith. I've been in therapy. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. But therapists like Dr. Les Carter emphasize that these statements are rarely confessions of growth. They're strategies of access. The narcissist's goal is to reopen communication, to reestablish control, to make you doubt your healing. Psychologically, what's happening here is called cognitive dissonance. Your mind wrestles between two truths, the person who hurt you and the person who now seems remorseful. That tension feels unbearable, so your brain seeks relief, often by rewriting history in their favor. But if you give in, if you allow them back in, you restart the trauma cycle that therapists call trauma bonding, an emotional addiction fueled by intermittent reward and punishment. Every time you forgive, the bond strengthens. Every time you resist, they escalate. That's why experts unanimously recommend the no-contact rule. Dr. Ramani calls it an emotional quarantine. Blocking them isn't cruelty, it's protection. Because to the narcissist, unblocking equals permission. It tells them the door is still open, that they still matter enough to reach you. They read your silence as a challenge and your boundaries as negotiable. Their inner dialogue is a game of advantage. You unblocked me. You're still thinking of me. I still have power. It's not love. It's psychological warfare disguised as reconciliation. And if you falter, if you answer that text or reopen that door, they will step right through, armed with charm, guilt, or even pity. Psychologists warn that narcissists are like emotional hackers. They don't need full access to your heart, only a tiny opening. Once they're in, the manipulation resume is often subtler than before because they've learned exactly how to disarm you. They'll tailor their approach, maybe playing the victim this time instead of the hero, anything to reestablish emotional dominance. The painful truth, as trauma experts often say, is that closure never comes from the narcissist. It comes from you. You must grieve the fantasy, not the person. The fantasy that they would change, that love could heal them, that empathy could redeem cruelty. You must destroy that illusion completely, because if you don't, you'll attract the same personality in a different face. Recovery means reclaiming your emotional autonomy, the power to say, no more. So when that familiar message arrives, when the voice that once shattered you suddenly sounds soft again, pause. Remember what you've learned. This isn't redemption. It's repetition. You survived them once. You don't owe them another chance to break you. As Dr. Phil once said, you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. And the greatest acknowledgement you can make is this: a narcissist doesn't return to love you. They return to remind you that they still can. Your strength lies not in reopening the door, but in locking it, walking away, and finally believing that peace is not something they give you. It's something you reclaim. Picture this. You've finally rebuilt your peace after surviving the emotional hurricane of a narcissist. Then one day, your phone buzzes. It's them, your sibling, your parent, your ex, maybe even your child. Their message is innocent enough. Hey, can I stay with you for a bit? It sounds harmless, almost familial. You hesitate, torn between compassion and caution. After all, family helps family, right? But psychologists like Dr. Ramani Durvasula and Dr. Lindsay Gibson warn that this is exactly how the narcissistic cycle begins again. Letting them back into your home isn't an act of kindness. It's an open invitation to chaos. Once inside, the pattern reemerges with surgical precision. Subtle manipulation, financial requests cloaked in helplessness, triangulation that pits loved ones against each other. Soon, they're borrowing your car, asking for money, disrupting your home's emotional rhythm. And when they finally leave, they'll leave behind a trail of exhaustion and guilt that only deepens your self-blame. Dr. Eleanor Greenberg, a clinical psychologist specializing in narcissistic personality disorder, explains that narcissists often use proximity as a tool of control. They seek emotional fusion, she notes. Being physically close to their target allows them to feed off that person's empathy and energy. In essence, what feels like hospitality to you is fuel for them. Each favor reinforces their power, while each sacrifice erodes your boundaries. You tell yourself it's temporary, but the psychological toll is permanent. Every relationship with a narcissist is a maze with no exit, unless you stop walking deeper into it. Some survivors choose limited contact or the gray rock method, emotionally disengaging to starve the narcissist of attention. Others go no contact altogether, cutting every tie and burning every bridge that connects to that toxic dynamic. Psychologists emphasize that whichever path you take, the key is consistency. Once you recognize the narcissist for who they are, even the smallest reopening of communication, a single text, a quick call, an unblocked number, can reignite the entire cycle. The narcissist's greatest weapon isn't their charm or cruelty. It's your hope. Hope that this time they've changed. Hope that therapy transformed them. Hope that love will reach them where logic couldn't. But as clinical researcher Dr. Sam Vaknin, one of the first scholars to dissect narcissistic abuse, bluntly states, narcissists don't heal, they evolve their manipulation. What looks like growth is often just a new mask, perfectly crafted to fit your current emotional needs. They study your empathy like a playbook and use it to re-enter your life disguised as redemption. Think back to the last time you said goodbye to them. Do you remember how it ended? The blame, the projection, the rewriting of history. Psychologists describe this as narcissistic revisionism, a defense mechanism where the narcissist reframes events to preserve their fragile ego. You became the villain. They became the victim. Every fight was your fault. Every act of love was never enough. And yet, in the quiet moments after they're gone, you question yourself. Was it really that bad? Maybe I overreacted. That's the aftershock of emotional abuse, the lingering distortion that makes you doubt your own memory. Dr. Judith Herman, a pioneer in trauma recovery, calls this phase trauma amnesia, the mind's desperate attempt to soften painful experiences by rewriting them. Survivors often reinterpret their trauma as misunderstanding or miscommunication. But here's the brutal truth. Abuse doesn't lose its meaning just because you've healed a little. A wound may close, but the scar still tells the story. Narcissists rely on that scar tissue of empathy to get back in, convincing you that forgiveness means reconciliation. But as psychologists remind us, forgiveness can coexist with distance. You can forgive them without reopening your door. Saying no to a narcissist is not cruelty, it's recovery. Dr. Ramani often reminds survivors that no is a full sentence, not an apology. It's the psychological line where your healing begins and their control ends. Narcissists despise boundaries because boundaries expose their dependence on your compliance. They can't survive in relationships that aren't fueled by emotional chaos. The moment you detach, you starve their ego. And in their starvation, they reveal their true selves: angry, entitled, and desperate. That's when the smear campaigns begin, the subtle sabotage, the emotional blackmail. It's their way of punishing you for choosing peace over their storm. Don't fall for their stories of transformation or victimhood. Psychologists emphasize that narcissists thrive in narratives. They rewrite reality so they can always be the hero or the martyr. They can cry, confess, even quote scripture if it serves the performance. But these aren't acts of remorse. They're tactics of re-entry. Real change requires humility, empathy, and accountability, traits that a narcissistic mind perceives as weakness. You, on the other hand, represent everything they lack. You can self-reflect, you can empathize, you can grow. And that's precisely why they keep returning, because your light exposes their emptiness. But light doesn't owe itself to darkness. So, when they come knocking again, remember this: you're not heartless for closing the door, you're healing. You're reclaiming your emotional territory. Boundaries aren't barriers. They're the architecture of self-respect. Protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's sacred. And if guilt whispers that you owe them another chance, remind yourself of the truth every psychologist knows. You can't save someone who's committed to sinking. The most compassionate act you can offer a narcissist is distance. There often comes a deceptive calm after the storm, a phase psychologists call the illusion of resilience. You start feeling whole again. Your energy returns, your finances stabilize, your laughter doesn't feel forced anymore. You begin to think, I've healed. I'm strong now. I can handle this if they come back. That's when the most dangerous thought sneaks in: maybe they've changed. But according to trauma specialist Dr. Ramani Durvasula, this is one of the most common psychological traps survivors fall into. She calls it post-trauma hope syndrome, a longing to rewrite the ending of the relationship that once nearly destroyed you. The truth, as painful as it is that narcissists don't change. They adapt. While you've been rebuilding your life, they've been refining their manipulation toolkit. Dr. Sam Vaknin, one of the foremost voices on narcissistic pathology, explains that narcissists are emotional predators who evolve by studying their prey. Every tear you shed, every boundary you once failed to enforce, becomes data. They return sharper, more convincing, and more dangerous. Their apologies sound genuine, their stories believable, and their eyes, so familiar, mask the same emptiness as before. They haven't changed. They've simply learned how to pretend better. When they resurface, their goal isn't reconciliation. It's domination. Clinical psychologists like Dr. Craig Malkin remind us that narcissists are addicted to control the way gamblers are addicted to risk. It gives them a rush, a sense of superiority. By pulling you back into their orbit, they reassert power over the one thing they can't stand losing: your attention. That's why Dr. Judith Orloff, author of the Empathist Survival Guide, urges survivors to maintain strict no contact. She calls it psychic quarantine. You can forgive them in your heart, pray for their healing, even wish them well, but never, ever open the door again. Compassion doesn't require access. Take a moment to remember what you endured: the confusion, the exhaustion, the sleepless nights replaying conversations that made no sense, the gaslighting that made you question your sanity, the silent treatments that cut deeper than any shouted insult. You didn't just survive abuse, you survived psychological warfare. And like the phoenix rising from ashes, you rebuilt yourself from fragments of pain into something radiant and whole. That transformation, psychologists say, is the true hallmark of post-traumatic growth, a process where survivors turn pain into wisdom and self-awareness. But while you've evolved, the narcissist hasn't. They didn't reflect or grieve or change. They simply moved on to their next source of supply, seeking new victims to exploit. Psychologist Dr. Eleanor Greenberg describes this as emotional vampirism. Narcissists can't sustain themselves without feeding off others' energy, admiration, fear, pity, devotion. They drain one person, then flutter to the next. That's why your absence doesn't wound them, it merely inconveniences them. But when they sense that your light has returned, that your confidence has been restored, they come back. Not out of love, but hunger. They return to finish what they started. The extraction of your empathy, your energy, your essence. So if you've escaped, consider yourself among the lucky few who've seen the truth. As Dr. Carol McBride, author of Will I Ever Be Free of You, writes, the gift of awareness is also the burden of responsibility. You didn't know back then what gaslighting was. You didn't understand trauma bonding or intermittent reinforcement, the psychological hooks that made you stay. But now you do. That knowledge is your armor, your superpower. With awareness comes the duty to protect your peace at all costs. No contact isn't cruelty. It's self-preservation. Every time you say no, you reclaim another piece of your stolen identity. Freedom after narcissistic abuse is more than survival, it's reclamation. You now have the autonomy to rebuild a life untouched by manipulation. Sleep in until noon, chase your passions, start that project, take that trip. Do it without them. As trauma therapist Shannon Thomas puts it, recovery is when you stop living as a reaction to your abuser. Narcissists don't love. They use. They don't grow. They decay. They're sinking ships trying to pull others down with them. Don't be the lifeboat that saves them only to drown again yourself. Every psychologist who studies narcissistic abuse agrees on one fundamental truth. Closure doesn't come from the narcissist. It comes from you. Writing, therapy, meditation, and community support all help you process what happened. But the most powerful healing tool is distance. True peace begins where contact ends. You owe it to yourself to slam that door shut, firmly, finally, and forever. As Dr. Ramani often says, the narcissist didn't just teach you what love isn't, they taught you what self-respect is. So let this be your reminder. No more chances, no more circular hope. Leave them where they belong, behind you in the past, fading like an echo that no longer deserves your attention. You've already done the hardest part, you left. Now comes the sacred work, staying gone. The future is yours, untethered, unbroken, and brilliantly free.